Hello, I'm James Gerard from Newcastle University, and today I'm going to be talking to you about Roman metal vessels. During the Roman period, a wide variety of vessels were used around the home. As archaeologists, we most commonly encounter the fragmentary remains of pottery vessels. Many Roman period sites produced thousands of sherds of jars, beakers, flagons and the like. These pottery vessels were commonplace, and it's important to remember that vessels made from pottery were some of the least prestigious utensils used for cooking, eating and drinking. The wealthier sections of society often used vessels made out of other materials, like glass and metal. It's the metal vessels that I'm going to be talking about today. Metal vessels are very rarely encountered during archaeological excavations, and there are two reasons for this. The first reason is that metal had, just as it has today, a scrap value. An old, worn-out vessel made of bronze would have been worth something, and because of this, most metal vessels were recycled, melted down and turned into something new. The second explanation for their rarity is simply that when many kinds of metal are buried in the ground, they corrode and disintegrate. This means that in many places metal vessels simply do not survive to be dug up by archaeologists. When we do find metal vessels, they often form so-called special deposits. And special deposits are individual objects or groups of objects recovered from odd locations. In our case, this might be a pewter vessel found placed in a bog, or a group of metal vessels buried as a hoard in a pit or placed at the bottom of a well. We don't really understand why metal vessels were treated in this way. In some cases they were probably being hidden away for safekeeping. In other cases their special treatment may have meant that the vessels were being sacrificed or dedicated to the gods. Very occasionally we find a metal vessel with an inscription scratched on its surface, dedicating it to a deity or god. But all too often our objects remain mute, and we have to create the best interpretations that we can to explain our finds. Finding metal vessels allows us to study how they are manufactured. Most vessels were made by beating a sheet of metal around a former or a template to produce the required shape, and you can see on the interior of this patera hammering marks. Another commonly used technique involved mounting a sheet of metal on a lathe. As the lathe spins, the sheet of metal is slowly shaped against a former. Vessels made on a lathe may often have a small central hole to show where it was mounted. This hole can be plugged with lead because otherwise it would compromise the function of the vessel. Metal vessels and their individual elements, such as feet or handles, could also be manufactured by casting molten liquid metal into moulds. Such vessels often have a seam where the upper and lower portion of the mould fitted together. We've found a number of Roman period moulds made from stone on sites in the West Country. These moulds were used to produce pewter vessels manufactured from lead and tin mined in the Mendips in Cornwall. The use of scientific techniques, like X-ray fluorescence, increasingly allows us to study the metallurgical composition of these vessels. These techniques can tell us about the alloys used to manufacture different vessels, and has also revealed the considerable skills of Romano-British metalsmiths. Those smiths produced a great range of vessel forms. Copper alloyed jugs, like this one, are relatively common, as are handled pans, or skillets or patera. This example may well have been manufactured in Italy, and many of the finds from Britain were probably made in the Italian peninsula. Both the patera and the jug are commonly depicted on the side of altars, and this suggests that they were used for ablutions and other ritual practices associated with religious worship. They may also have performed more mundane functions in the kitchen and home. The handled pans include a variant with a sieve-like bowl. Quite what these vessels were used for is uncertain. We think they were probably used in the preparation of alcoholic drinks. Herbs and spices would be added to wine, beer and mead to infuse the drink with special flavours. These strainers would then be used to separate the flavourings from the drink. The preparation of alcoholic beverages may also explain a number of bucket-like vessel forms. These could have been used for the mixing of wine and water, or to hold the beverage as it was infused with those flavourings. There are a number of different kinds of metal bowls and basins known from Roman Britain. Many of these have rims decorated with gadroons or raised beads. These vessels may have been used to serve or display food, but it is equally likely that they played an important role in mealtime hand and finger washing. Roman meals often included more than one course, and in an age where most food was picked up with the fingers, cleaning your hands between courses was an important and necessary part of any meal. You can see Roman period metal vessels on display in many of Britain's museums. They provide a fascinating set of insights into life in Roman Britain and a genuine connection with the people who lived during that time and used these pots and pans.